Hello, I'm Nancy Smith Maddox, broadcasting on Shine Your Light Radio Ministry. So excited. We have a new venture going that's going to last for about 6 weeks, and I'm very excited about this on WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm broadcasting from Little Rock, Arkansas. My guest tonight is a very, very special person. You're going to learn a lot from this person, and I just think it's just very exciting to me to be able to do what we're doing. Let me tell you what Shine Your Light's going to do. For the next 6 weeks, we're going to talk to everyone and everything for the Day of Empathy, which is March the 25th. We're going to do interviews every week that are going to lead up to this, so all of our viewers are going to understand what the National Day of Empathy is. It's not local, it's national. So it's real exciting to me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started so I have plenty of time. My guest today is Ryan Norris. He is the State Director for Americans for Prosperity. And I'm very excited to have Ryan today. I feel like I got somebody really important as State Director. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be on Shine Your Light, and I look forward to some really good knowledge exchange here. So as you said, I'm the State Director for Americans for Prosperity. Don't let the title fool you. I do everything from changing light bulbs and keeping the refrigerator stocked with cold drinks for everyone that comes into our office, to working with politicians as high as the governor to try to improve our state in multiple areas of policy, but particular to me, I see definite need in the area of criminal justice. Americans for Prosperity is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. It is about public policy. Our vision is that we help remove barriers from people's lives that keep them from achieving their fullest potential. We want to create a society of mutual benefit where people succeed by helping other people, and then having the opportunity to speak to you and see how you use your skills to better your community and help individuals get their message out there. That's exactly the type of community that we're wanting to envision for our state and our nation.
Well, that's awesome. WYT is internationally, so this is going to go a long way, and this is going to really be important for our country to build up to the Day of Empathy on March 25th. I'm going to keep repeating that so people will understand when they see what happens. So I appreciate you. Tell me a little bit about your crusade, like how you got to there and where you are now.
Okay, well, I used to think that I don't have quite such an interesting story, say, as Miss Ruby Welch, who's with Cut 50, who are the primary sponsors of Day of Empathy. She's been incarcerated. I come from a pretty, standard middle-class background. I've never been justice involved myself. I haven't had any family around me even that have been justice involved. In fact, I often say to friends of mine, if you'd have asked me a question about criminal justice in Arkansas and the justice system 2 years ago, I would have had a totally different opinion about how broken certain things are about it. So that said, I don't come from this from an experiential point of view, but from an empathetic and just a position of caring for my fellow man, and just understanding that injustice is injustice at times, and that there are systems that have been put in place. I don't necessarily think it's malicious per se, but it's just maybe apathetically things have been placed one on top of the other in public policy that continues to keep people in a cycle of never being able to get out of the justice system. And I'm a pretty bright guy. I solve problems, and I had a friend of mine who dealt in this area timeline for me. I said, Tim, show me how this works from the time someone catches a charge until they get out. And I couldn't see the off-ramp. And I don't think that's fair when people have paid their debt to society and they're no longer a harm to themselves or to others, but yet they have a life sentence, a de facto life sentence of having a stigma, and also just having legitimately barriers placed in front of them that keep them from being successful.
Well, I'll tell you how I got involved with this, with the criminal justice reform. I have a business partner, and we publish books. We have a prison publishing program, and we've published book for probably 6 or 7 lifers,
Wow.
and some are still in prison, and some have gotten out. But I'm sure that you're as excited as I am with the criminal justice reform and what's happening with pardons and clemency. We both have friends that we've met, that we've been associated with, that were incarcerated, that have now gotten out, and it's just really very, very exciting. Even as early as 2 weeks ago, I met with a lady that had been in prison for 46 years for a minor crime, and she was out now, and she was a true blessing to me when I talked to her. But it's very rewarding when you're involved with this, with the criminal justice reform, and with cut 50 and everything that's going on, and the day of empathy is building up to that. That's what it's all about. So I'm real excited to be involved with it. So why is it important for you to be involved with the day of empathy, Ryan?
Well, it comes down to the way to get the public policy to move is to get the stakeholders to buy in. And there are many stakeholders. There are the incarcerated, obviously. There are the families. There are the friends. There are the employers. I mean, if you looked at all the barriers for someone who's reentering to getting a job, there's bound up GDP and wealth and opportunity and improvement for our state in these individuals who are brilliant people, but can't move their careers to certain levels because of their background. So why it's important to me is that unless you take an interest and do your work and do your study, you can always put this on a back burner. And you can think that it's not a problem and that it doesn't affect you, but it does affect you. There are needs in our state for more employment. We have good jobs that could potentially be available, but we may have something like a criteria in an occupational license that keeps someone who has a skill set from actually working in that career path. So that's where we need to educate legislators, who many times are some of our most upstanding citizens, about people they don't maybe interact with on a day-to-day basis. Last Friday, I went to there was a program at the Pulaski County Jail, and these ladies were graduating from that program, teaches life skills and such. And someone asked me, they said, well, this isn't really about public policy. Why are you even here? I said, well, for me to be good at communicating public policy and determining, from my perspective, what might be good public policy, I want to be next to the people that are suffering from these laws.
Absolutely.
That's what empathy is about.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Wow. So what does empathy look like from your point of view for our community?
Well, I think that empathy is what it would look like is, there's the walk a mile in someone's shoes. There's that idea. But you would be shocked at how many times you could just about sit at any table in any restaurant in the state of Arkansas and bring up the issue of criminal justice. And you're going to have someone who knows someone who's been incarcerated, or they've been incarcerated themselves, and they've got a story to tell about a particular event or something that happened that could be improved upon, that could have been different, that there was an injustice done, or that someone is caught up in a system and can't get out. The empathy is really just having the courage to start the conversations. Right now, I was at my father's church. He's a pastor of a small church in rural Arkansas. I happened to, the church family knows me well. I showed up to visit Dad, and someone asked me what I was working on. I mentioned that I was working on some criminal justice reform. And this lady, who is a grandmother, upstanding member of her community, upstanding member of our church, she ends up catching a charge that, from all accounts, appears to have been one that was maybe not accurate, but it affected her entire life, and she lost her occupational licensing. She is now, she could have had a much better job and is now struggling a little bit, in finding employment and such. And you never would have known that she would have ever had this issue or this problem. And rightly or wrongly, she does. She's paid any debt that may have been owed, either actually or not, and you wouldn't have picked her out. So for my community, I think it's having the courage to have the conversations, removing the stigma that once you've met somebody who's been justice involved, that doesn't make them a bad person. Their worst decisions and worst mistakes are not the defining attribute of their entire life.
We really have to think about that we serve a graceful God. I mean, there is grace and redemption with our God. And you know what? Everybody deserves a second chance, and you can be redeemed, and you can get redemption. And what I found as I'm visiting with people that I've published their books, is that these sentencing guidelines are very harsh. I mean, people are getting life for minor things, and it just does not seem fair to me. And that's what I'm finding. And then also they're putting teenagers in adult prisons with life sentences, and that just blows me away. I mean, why don't they have facilities between for teenagers, people that are under age of 21 to go to? And, I'm like, this is just terrible for them to be in a high-risk facility with adults when they're a teenager. How do they ever get reformed? You know what I mean? They have to start struggling and trying to save their lives, really. So it's really, there's a lot of issues with and a lot of injustice with the criminal reform. So what message would you like to convey to our legislators concerning empathy? Because you deal with them.
I do deal with them. And there are some upstanding, very caring individuals that really want to improve the situation for those that are incarcerated and those that are in the reentry community. I won't name names, just because we're working on legislation and things.
Oh, absolutely. No, I wouldn't want any. Yeah, please don't do that.
But there are some really awesome folks that work on this as legislators. And so here's what I've found out. There are legislators who they run for office for different reasons. And some people run for economic reasons. Some people run because they want to make business better. They want, there's God, guns, and family, folks out there. But when they look at the reentry community, just because a group can't vote for you doesn't mean you shouldn't care about what's happening to them. And so many times those that are in those long probation periods or parole periods, they can't vote yet. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be aware of what they're facing in their life, because these barriers are perpetuating poverty in your district.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get these individuals as many opportunities as possible. That, I'm not saying that you have to go crazy to where it puts the public safety at risk. 95% of people are going to come out of prison. So what kind of person do you want? Do you want a person that reintegrates into the community in some kind of smooth and systematic fashion? Or do you want to create a system that makes it so hard that they have no choices but to possibly create more crimes and recidivate again? Sometimes it's out of survival needs that they steal or they do burglary, or their coping mechanism that they could have potentially had programs for in prison that they thought that they had beat, had so many barriers in their path to getting a job or getting a housing or getting an education that they fall back into those and back into addictions, back into alcohol abuse, these kind of things. I had a conversation with a legislator, and he's like, Ryan, what do I need to know? I said, I can't tell you. I said, but you follow me and come to the people that are suffering with these issues, and you meet them face to face. Hear it from them. Don't listen to me. I can just take you to where they're at. And so I hope that they take me up on that, because I don't pretend to speak for the reentry community. I'm just here to help facilitate their voice because they do not have one. And
Yeah, that's true. That's what they really need, is a voice when they're in the reentry program. We're going to take a quick commercial break for WYTV7 and Shine Your Light, and we'll be right back, okay? Okay, well, I just wanted to just give a little bit of time for WYTV7 to do a commercial break. But anyway, let's continue on. Ryan, this is so interesting because, you know, where we ended up was that they need a voice. I mean, and really that's what they want. They want to voice their opinions, and they've had a lot of experiences that most of us have never had, that they really need to be heard. So I think that's an excellent idea, you know, to take the legislators with you so they can hear it from the horse's mouth. I mean, really. So why is it important for the entire state of Arkansas to participate in the Day of Empathy from your point of view and your perspective?
Well, here's the reason why. If you took just those that are in our jails and our prisons, the population that's in the jails and the prisons, you're going to have like a top 20 city population's worth of people just in the incarcerated. If you expand that out to those that are under supervision, you're going to have about a top 3 city of population. That's huge. That's a lot of folks.
Sure is.
And even when we worked on previously on some legislation about removing the $50 fee for sealing your record, petition of sealing, and making it now to where it's totally free. So if you meet the criteria, you no longer have to pay $50 to show that you are a reformed citizen. We worked on that in the past session. The Administrative Office of the Court estimated that there would be about 500,000 individuals that would be benefiting from that piece of legislation. So here's the interesting thing: we're only a population of 3 million people, and if you have 500,000 that potentially could have a record sealed, that's 1/6 of our population. 1/6.
That's amazing.
And so for Arkansas, the reason this is important to participate in empathy is there is this concept of when you meet individuals, you should approach them with a thought that they may know something that you don't know. And just because you've watched your crime movies and you may have even, you know, participated in, you know, in the civics programs, and you understand the separation of powers in government and all of those things, when you hear these individualized stories, it will break your heart, because you'll figure out that when the race of life started for some people, their situations were so bad that they were miles away from the starting line, not the finish line, the starting line. And that's what has broke my heart. I had my friend, when I first started out, going, I need to understand. I need to wrap my head around this. He brought young ladies into my office, and they all started off with very traumatic childhood experiences. And I'm looking at them and listening to their story, and I am not certain that in the same circumstances, I may not have made the same choices. We're all in a process of transformation, whether you've been justice involved or not. We should all be striving to improve our understanding, improve our empathy to our fellow man. And that's why partnering with Cut 50 on Day of Empathy is very important to me as an individual, but also as a state director, because I have people that, until we started getting involved in that area of policy, had never considered their positions on. But now we have them. We had a candidate forum in Jonesboro, Arkansas, had 16 candidates in House, Senate, and some judicial races there. And some of the candidates made the comment that I had never considered my position on criminal justice reform until I was asked by Americans for Prosperity to participate in this criminal justice reform forum. And so that's a good thing. They're now,
absolutely,
you know, now the gears are going in their head about what should we do when we have these citizens coming back. what should we do to make sure that they're successful and not going back into the system?
And you know, we hear about mass incarceration all the time growing up, but you know what? You never understood the importance of it until you get involved with something like this, with Cut 50 or with a Day of Empathy. You don't realize. And now anybody that gets involved, you can't help but be in tune with what's going on, and it's just so many people. When you say mass incarceration, that means a lot of people, and 500,000 right here in Arkansas.
Right.
That's unbelievable. That's just an astronomical number, and these are human beings that we're talking about. These are human beings that God gives redemption to and has grace for. So I mean, it just blows my mind. It blows me away, and I'm so excited to be involved with it. And just for all the viewers to know, we are talking about the Day of Empathy, which is March 25th. It is a national day of empathy, so it'll be celebrated all over the country. And Ryan is with the Americans for Prosperity. He's the state director, and he's been sharing a lot with us tonight about that, which I'm so excited about. We're going to do 6 weeks worth of interviews on this particular subject so we can raise awareness all over the country. So what information will people obtain by attending the Day of Empathy, Ryan?
Well, we are sit down with Miss Ruby today, and we work through kind of the agenda. You're going to hear firsthand accounts from individuals who have been in the justice system, hear their journey, hear what they believe should be the direction that our state should go in reforms. So you're going to hear firsthand accounts. You can't get more primary than that in your information. The next piece that I'm really kind of excited about, and you're going to have her on, I believe, is Miss Nicole Campbell Smart. She works in the reentry and programmatic aspect of the Arkansas Department of Correction. So that's another beautiful piece about this day, is that you're not just having people speak that have been incarcerated. You're talking about people at some of the highest levels of our government and in this area, empathizing with the people that they're responsible for. And that's really a beautiful thing. So you're going to hear that. Then you'll hear from policy people like myself. We're working on an expert policy speaker to also be there that day as an additional person that can speak to legislators about the technicalities of legislation and about good legislation that's being passed across the country that maybe Arkansas should emulate.
Wow, that sounds exciting. I'm really excited to be involved with it. Once you get involved with the criminal justice system, and you get involved with that policy making and everything and you hear everything, it's just really overwhelming how much it is, and how and I know in Arkansas, I'm just very, very upset about them putting juveniles in with adults prisons, because I mean, I just don't know how they make it, but they do. The ones I've interviewed and the ones I've talked to and when I'm doing books for and publishing their stories, they're making it and they're doing good. So my prayer is that that the administration, the national administration, keeps doing what they're doing to work for criminal justice reform, because it's just gone downhill over the past 15, 20 years. It's just not right. I mean, these sentences are unfair, and just like the lady that spent 46 years incarcerated. I mean, she's just a genuine, great person. She became a trainer in the prison, in the women's prison, and she trained people, and she studied, and she worked. And she's just she's a very gracious person, so excited to be out of prison, to be able to carry forward with her life. But reentry is really a special thing, because it takes a lot of adjustment for the ones that are entering the reentry program. I mean, they've been out of society for so long there's a lot of things that the legislation can do to help with that. So, well, Ryan, I'd like for you to give us just a few more comments. We're almost out of time. It goes by fast when you're having fun.
Right.
So I'd like for you to give us a few more comments about anything that you would like to say, and you can promote Americans for Prosperity if you want, and also whatever you want to say. So go ahead.
So the closing comments that I would like to give is that the driver for reforms should be the idea that you kind of touched into, you know, the second chances, the love for our fellow man. The point of view of Americans for Prosperity on criminal justice as a basis is that there is a baseline of human dignity that everybody deserves, a baseline, that you just don't go below that. As a society, we just don't go below that. And there are reforms that are happening within our prisons, even here in Arkansas, that I'm so excited about, because it's no longer calling them inmate, but calling them miss and calling them mister, and giving them an elevated sense of self-worth. Even a small amount is at least a kernel that they can start building on to create a new and transformed life. So that's what I think is a key piece to remember as we design out policy. Does it meet the human dignity standard that our society has for everybody, no matter how they think about themselves or no matter how they think about us? There's just certain ways of dealing with people that doesn't remove their humanity. And so we need to focus in on those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you so much, Ryan, for being on the show. I know we're going to get a lot of viewers. We're going to start building up, and I'm going to be praying to build up for people to be at the Day of Empathy wherever they are in the country, because this is a national thing. So again, it's the National Day of Empathy on March 25th. So thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate you for being with us today. Okay.
Thank you very much. I've loved it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.